The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.
Welcome to AI for Good, the leading action-oriented, global and inclusive United Nations platform on AI. Organized by ITU, in partnership with 40 UN sister organizations, and co-convened with Switzerland. The goal of AI for Good is to identify practical applications of AI to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and scale those solutions for global impact. In today's session, we're counting on you to use the live video wall feature to ask questions and post comments to help create an engaging discussion. We encourage you to stay until the end to chat, connect, ask questions, and network with our distinguished panelists and world-class AI experts in the neural network. It is now time to kick off the session and welcome our first speaker. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from me as well. I'm Guilherme Martinez-Roura from the International Telecommunication Union, and I would like to welcome you all for joining today's AI for Good Innovation Factory session organized by the ITU. The Innovation Factory is a program launched in 2020 under the flagship initiative AI for Good. It originally started as an online pitching platform for startups, and this year it has been upgraded as more like an accelerating program. We help startups grow and scale their innovative AI solutions to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by providing various business opportunities, mentoring services, matchmaking with potential investors and partners, and more. Today, I'm delighted to introduce the first AI for Good Innovation Factory event of the year as part of a series of global startup pitching sessions to find the most promising solutions using AI to solve sustainable development challenges. The winners of this session will be invited to pitch at the AI for Good Innovation Factory Grand Finale during the AI for Good Global Summit 2024, happening in Geneva on the 31st May this year. And through the year, the winner will be supported to grow and scale up through the help of our judges, partners, startup accelerators, and incubators, so that we can trace how the AI for Good Innovation Factory startups grow and evolve and are making impact for the betterment of this world. And now, without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our moderator today. Her name is Pascal Davies, and she's Euro News tech correspondent. Pascal, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Guillaume. So yeah, as he was saying, I am a tech reporter at Euronews. I'm really excited to be here to see the final startups before the grand finale. Today, there are 5 startups that range from AI homeware to using AI to fight bias. But before we get to them, I'd like to introduce our distinguished judges. Firstly, we have Carlo Tortora Braiada di Belvedere, I hope I said that right, who's the CEO at Gorilla Corporation. Hi there, Carlo. Oh, I think...
Sorry.
Hi, Carlo, have you back again. I want to ask you, what are you looking for from our startups today?
Yeah, what I'm looking for is, well, first of all, technology that really has the ability to impact the world, that really does align truthfully to the Sustainable Development Goals. And beyond that, I'm looking for a level of commercial maturity, commercial realism, I'm looking for entrepreneurs that are passionate, and that really have what it takes to go through the entrepreneurial journey, which is one of the hardest and most painful experiences that anybody could embark on, right? So it takes a lot of grit and determination. And I want to get a sense that from today's cohorts that they're in for the long ride, and they're ready to ride this bucking bronco.
Absolutely. Well, they definitely sound like they're very determined. Next up, I want to introduce Joseph K. Hopkins, who's the Senior Managing Partner at the Incubation Accelerator, the iPrestige Emerge Fund. Joseph, I want to ask you, given your experience with early stage startups, how difficult is it going to be to impress you today?
Well, I must tell you, first of all, nice to hear and see everyone. I'm looking forward to another Innovation Factory. You know, I don't want to date myself, but I think I was probably one of the original judges on the first Innovation Factory. I think I'm going on 3 or 4 years. So I'm only probably 12 or 13 years old. So I've been at it a while. But no, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sorry, what was your question? I lost track.
So it must be hard to impress you, especially as you've been here from the start. So how are the startups going to be able to wow you today?
Oh, yeah. Well, I must tell you, I one of the great things about it, you know, having done this for some time as a judge, also we sponsor the Innovation Factory. We've had a chance to see companies over the years, and this particular group is quite impressive. We've looked at the material. I've looked at many of these companies, the websites, etc. So it's a pretty impressive group. What I am looking for is passion. I'm looking to make sure they understand what they're sort of selling as a business. I think one of the things that startups struggle with is having a compelling go-to-market strategy and the ability to execute it. And I'm really looking for them to be able to tell a story in a very clear fashion where normal people can understand it, and really talk about the commercial viability of what their business is about and how it's going to impact the business community, as well as obviously the mission of the UN. So passion, I think the ability to be able to articulate what they're doing. And I think sometimes some of these younger companies don't focus on this, but I do think it's important to also talk about how do they plan to generate revenue. That's going to be important. We have an investment fund, and guys like me love to put money into young companies. And so if you don't have my contact information, and if you think you've got something worth listening to, certainly reach out to us, and we'll certainly go from there. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Joseph. Next up, we have Jacqueline Kagima, who is the Investment Associate at the non-profit Thinker International. Jacqueline, I want to ask you, which of the UN Sustainable Development Goals are you going to be looking for today, if not all of them?
Right. Being as it may that Thinker Ventures, we purely focus on early stage impact in founders. So I think the key UN SDGs we'll be looking out for will definitely be improving livelihoods. So that's one key that we'll definitely be focusing on, and also the key gender lens and how much that the different startups are focusing on during this competition as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And next up, we have Sarah Storelli, who's the Worldwide Public Sector Marketing Leader at Amazon Web Services. Sarah, what are you looking for today?
Oh, goodness, I feel like so much. I think, in general, what I always love to look for is what can actually be used by citizens and to even get it in their hands as quickly as possible, or even if that is from a corporate perspective, but really useful, tangible technology that can be scaled and used by many different audiences. So I'm really looking for usability, and of course, also what is reducing inequalities around the world, as well as gender equality.
Okay. So a lot there, and we definitely have some startups that do meet those goals. So I want to introduce you to our last judge, who is Stephen Ibaraki, who's the Chairman and Managing General Partner at Reds Capital. Stephen, you've been here, I think, for all the pitching sessions, if I'm wrong. What have you seen throughout these competitions that have really stood out to you this year?
I'm always looking, and what I'm seeing here is, purposeful leadership, purposeful innovation, sustainable business. You see all of those elements, and of course, aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. That makes it really impressive. And this particular group is really, really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so why don't we get straight to it? But before that, I want to say thanks to our audience for joining us. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the AI for Good neural network chat room. And hopefully at the end of the session, we will get time to answer those questions. So I want to introduce our first team today, who are Intera, a social tech that builds proprietary AI. You have 5 minutes for your pitch. I will let you know when you have 1 minute left, and then you will have 10 minutes where the judges will grill you. So I will start your 5 minutes now.
Thank you so much, Pascal. It's so exciting to be here. My name is Hannah. I am the founder and CEO of Intera. And before getting to what we do, I would like to explain a little bit of why we are here. So we are based in Mexico, and what we are seeing around us is that over 200 million people in the Americas belong to diverse groups, are in the workforce, but are really excluded from the job market. So most are in the informal sector, don't really have access to fair jobs, and are at very high risk of poverty. And the trend that we are unfortunately seeing is that as more and more recruitment happens with AI models, bias is actually increasing, and people are ever more excluded from fair jobs. So what we are seeing on the other hand, after having explored really a lot with companies, what is going on is that there's also a lot of issues in recruitment that are pretty unresolved. One, of course, processes are very biased, but that usually doesn't make for decisions. Companies really have very inefficient processes, and that is something where we see a huge opportunity, where they spend between 1 and 6 monthly salaries for each job opening on really inefficient processes that could be relieved. So our solution to that brings in our proprietary AI powering a SaaS tool for companies and a job access tool for diverse groups. So what we offer to companies is really quite straightforward. It's a super efficient, precise, and bias eliminating recruitment management system where companies can do anything in the recruitment process, from filtering their talent with a sort of ChatGPT for matching that is powered entirely by our own AI. That is super precise. It creates totally fair and at the same time bias eliminating matches. From there, they can manage the candidates and the hiring processes, and they get candidate attraction in there with candidates that we ourselves source, from refugees to single mothers. And that saves companies, which I think is super important, around $1,000 per job opening. And from what we are using to power this is an AI that we built entirely ourselves. That was super important. It's only built with unbiased data and with a multi-point human feedback loop, now mainly with machine learning, and now we're putting deep learning on top. We're getting really precise results, and at the same time, I think a great indicator is that 37% of the matches that we are making are invited to interviews, which is very much above industry standard. We're now still pre-revenue. We launched in September last year in freemium to make sure that we could gather as much data as possible and continue improving our AI to where we are now. And we are, as you can see, really going to launch in a few weeks our SaaS solution with a very simple monthly or annual subscription for companies, which is at a range where it's very clear for companies that they will get a huge return on investment. We have, as you can see, a lot of companies that are literally ready to start buying our offer. In terms of impact, we have already worked with over 4,000 candidates, made over 4,000 matches. Importantly, over 70% of candidates before were in poverty, were lifted out and earn nearly 2 times more than workers in the region, which is really incredible, I think. What we're looking at in terms of potential of revenue is also a really huge market. We're in the HR tech market, which in the Americas is over 59 billion, plus an entirely optimizable market where companies are spending inefficiently at the moment, which is an additional 15 billion, which is totally untapped, very few solutions available. So this is really a great prospect. And what we're looking for at the moment is an overall of $2.5 million in total catalytic funding, of which we have already secured and received 1 million. So we just need 1.5 million more. This is going to go really into enhancing and growing the capacity of our AI ever more, and into building out our team even more, focusing a lot on sales, on fast growth, on strengthening our product team, giving us an 18-month runway.
30 seconds
really
left.
Great. Yeah, and here you can see we are a team super focused, I'd say, on product, on AI, where we have Marcella, who is absolutely brilliant, Carlos, who is our CTO with a lot of experience in the recruitment tech sector, and a very strong operations and financial team backing us up. And that is us. We're super excited to be here. I am super excited. One of the few spaces for AI for good. So looking forward to any questions. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for telling us about that. And of course, AI bias, definitely something that needs to be addressed. So I'm now going to hand the floor to the judges who have 10 minutes. Who would like to ask the first question?
Yeah, I mean, it's Stephen here. A really compelling, a really outstanding job. So I just want to congratulate you on your startup. Have you done a more in-depth analysis of the competitive landscape and where do you sit? And what are the entry barriers to what you're doing?
Super interesting. Yes, there are, I would say the competitive landscape is AI recruitment in general. It's not really AI recruitment eliminating bias, because bias is not the main buying factor for most clients, which I think is interesting. So we always say we bring the impact in through the back door by giving an outstanding product that a company wants to buy for the business benefits, at least in the LATAM region. That's really crucial. There are a few super interesting solutions. I think Eightfold is very interesting, although they only focus on skills matching. There is an Argentina-based startup called Emmy Labs that is gaining some traction here. But I would say in terms of offering efficiency in the recruitment process, there is surprisingly little still, and actually most big solutions are struggling in bringing that into their offer. And for entry barriers, I would say most startups are struggling with being able to be cost efficient. So something that I think is a huge benefit for us is that we have a partnership with Western Polytechnic Institute using their servers and supercomputers, which allows us to be super cost efficient at the moment. And overall, I think we came into the AI model with a super different angle than other startups, which helped us get really good results really fast, which, often I think startups spend years on training and trying to get there. So if you don't get that fast, it can be very hard to even enter the market.
Great, thank you.
Yep, our next judge.
Hi, Hannah. Congratulations on your company. Kind of a little bit of a similar question to what Stephen asked. It's a pretty competitive landscape space out there in terms of overall recruitment management systems. You think about the Rabbit, TAFs, Manpower, Deco. There are a lot of big companies out there. Give me a flavor for what makes you different from what those folks. I got to imagine they're probably also incorporating some level of technology, specifically AI as well. In fact, we've got 1 or 2 clients that are also doing something similar. So that's one. And then 2 is think about where you think about your goal to start to generate revenue. How far are you from that?
Perfect. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, in the competitive landscape, I would say that we have an edge that's quite different from these companies. So I think that specifically in everything that's filtering, pre-selecting candidates and making the recruitment process shorter, which is where companies lose so much money, they are not great yet. And I know a lot of people actually in Manpower, in Hays, in these providers. We've talked to a lot of applicant tracking systems to understand what they are doing. And it's interesting that a lot haven't figured this part out yet and are mainly using AI through LLMs and chatbots, which is not necessarily a great experience for either candidate or the recruitment team. So I think we've just taken a different approach that from what we are seeing so far with companies can save them so much time. That is really a different edge. We're also going in, starting sales with mid-market because those are clients that are much easier to satisfy. We've worked with both mid-market and enterprise. So we have that experience.
Yeah, in fact, many of those companies can't even afford to pay the prices that these big companies I just cited offer, right? So you probably have a nice price point that can make it a little bit more interesting, compelling for them, right?
100%. Yeah, we are much cheaper. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then how about your path to revenue?
Yeah, so we are going to start selling actually in a few weeks. We're just polishing off everything around the SaaS product. Yeah, we have a pipeline of over 50 companies that we've already spoken with that are very interested, some that have sort of pre-committed to buying. And the potential that we see there is that with the pipeline and interest we have, we could reach already around 20K in USD monthly revenue around August, September, and from there continue growing. So actually looks pretty good.
Thank you.
Got 5 minutes left. So which judge would like to ask the question? Sarah, go ahead.
Great, thanks. Hi there. So yeah, love this. I'm curious to know what's your marketing strategy that you all have, or to actually generate more pipeline, if you will, so even from a field marketing perspective, but just kind of that overall awareness strategy, especially given there are major corporations who have, plenty of these solutions already, I'll put in quotes.
Yeah, for sure. What we are doing is honestly, a lot of outbound because it's getting us a faster sales cycle to target companies directly in which we see this need to be more efficient and more cost efficient, especially. So there is a lot of LinkedIn messaging, mailing, and going to events where we actually don't necessarily target HR, but mostly finance and operations. We have a much clearer sense of the cost that can be saved and are much more numbers oriented overall. And the second path that we have since some months is that we do inbound, doing monthly webinars where we partner with companies like Betterfly, but also impact-oriented organizations like 10 Partnership for Refugees, to get to companies that want both efficiency and a little bit of impact, to get them aware. And yeah, in terms of inbound marketing, also the very classical LinkedIn strategies where we have a lot of interesting content bringing companies in.
Great. And really one really quick, very last follow-up. So your main audience, since you're actually not really targeting HR, I just want to be clear, you're actually targeting more about finance organizations within companies versus HR?
100%. We've tried a lot with HR. We see that often HR doesn't have such a clear sense of how optimization can be reached and are not very numbers focused in their day-to-day. And we see that especially operations, when we look at logistics companies, manufacturing, retail, tend to be the ones that also really observe how to be much more efficient because they are the ones that have the biggest cost, which is loss in productivity. So let's say they have around 15 unproductive days for each vacancy, and we can reduce those days by at least 5, which is a lot of money for these companies.
Okay,
Great,
we've got
thank
time
you.
for one last question. Who
Yep.
would like to take that?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
Jacqueline,
I'd love to
would you
jump in.
like?
Oh, can I?
Did you want another one?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in and ask a question. So my question, I'll let it be about security. Tell me about how you've built in security in your development and how you go about making sure that the training data also is not biased. I assume that you're feeding a lot of sort of training data yourselves as opposed to the clients, but maybe also the client in enterprise accounts would want to feed in their own data. So what measures would you take to make sure that the data is not biased?
That's a great question, Carlo. Yeah. In terms of security, we honestly follow very standard protocols in the sector to make sure that we won't have any breaches. we also did that very much from the beginning because we started out with funding from different UN organisms where it was super important for us to show the protocols that we are using and show that especially user data, what interested them is never going to be insecure, and of course company data as well. For training, we started out using 100% our own data and human feedback loops. So we would always have our data confirmed by our human recruiters trained in debiasing data, and then have multi-points where we can make sure that it's as high quality as possible. And we are still doing that now. So now that our scale is much bigger, what we do is that we have human feedback loops on a sample of the matches that we do all the time. And then we use that human feedback to make sure that we are debiasing everything that's happening. And now we are also measuring very clearly different mathematical fairness metrics, like the 4/5 rule, but lots of different metrics that for us are great indicators of how fair the outcomes are, to feed that back directly into the results of the algorithm and let it reinforce its learning with that.
Well, thank you, Hannah. That's a really interesting answer. My organization is very much into this whole idea of AI bias in recruitment and labor law, etc. And we do work with the US federal government on that. So it'd be very good to have a chat afterwards, maybe. But thank you for your presentation.
That sounds great. Let's do that, Carlo. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Really fascinating. Next up, let's move to Nobi, who is a home tech company for the elderly. Why don't you tell me about Nobi? You have 5 minutes to pitch.
Thank you. So what is our starting point with Nobi? Well, it's plenty of elderly, more and more elderly, and always less caregivers and increased spendings on care.
Vera,
so yes?
Very quickly, sorry, we can't see your screen.
Oh, sorry.
Saw it very briefly.
Okay. Still not? Does it work now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we could even call it a silver tsunami. The number of elderly is increasing everywhere, and we have always less caregivers, and we have even reduced hospital beds that are partly also blocked by elderly people that should not be there because they simply have been waiting for help after a fall way too long. And depending on our different societies and countries, basically the problem is the same everywhere with, as I said, increasing spendings. So there is no one cure-all for the problem in elderly care, but there is one thing with a major leverage, and this is if we tackle falls. Why are falls that important? Because if we look at elderly people living in residential care homes, 70% of them fall at least once a year, many of them several times. And if they have to wait for help lying on the floor for more than 1 hour, that has a dramatic effect on their mortality rates. And although in many countries, nurse call systems are obliged to be installed in those permanent resident or care facilities, 80% of people are not able to use it if they are already lying on the floor. So given these figures, there is a projection that just the cost-related falls in the US are going to double from 2020 to 2030. So what is our solution to that problem? Well, it's basically, first of all, make sure that every fall is detected immediately and people don't have to wait for hours. How do we do this? With a stylish piece of furniture, which is a simple lamp, but with optical sensors detecting the position of the person in the room in an on-edge AI model. So nobody detects a fall and then immediately calls for help, even allowing two-way communication if the caregiver takes some time, cutting down the average intervention time from approximately an hour to 2 to 3 minutes, and allowing people to be helped immediately. But apart from immediate detection of a fall, it's as important to minimize the number of falls. And there are several measures to do so. First thing is to simply light the room when people get up at night, to avoid that they trip, for example, over their shoes when going to the bathroom in the dark. Second thing is to help those people who are really in need assistance when, for example, going to the bathrooms. And third thing is to analyze the falls that still happen and make sure that all measures are taken to avoid them in the future, for example, architectural changes. And with those means, we achieved a reduction of, for example, more than 80% in a case in the UK. In addition, we have several stakeholders we're taking care of. On the one hand, it's the generation of the elderly that, apart from having a safe life, also need every additional support they can get. For example, just a light that gives them support for the biorhythm. So we do support the circadian light, but also for all the caregivers who are stressed out anyhow, to support them in their daily work, to reduce their administrative work, but also to allow them to save time on nightly checkups with the residents, because nobody would tell them only when help is needed. So, and what are our differentiators? Well, the first thing is design. We are super convinced that things need to be desired in order to be used. Otherwise, they won't do any good. And the second thing is that privacy is absolutely key. So what is super important to us is that everything is processed in our lamps unless there is a fall. There are no images sent to the cloud if there is no fall. And even if there is a fall, residents can choose what type of data is shared. And we keep the information on falls revision safe, but after 14 days, we delete every footage. So what's our target? Never miss a single fall again, reduce the number of falls by 80% and make sure that if a fall still occurs, we are there 90% faster than without NOBI. And what does this mean for an entire country? Well, it's just saving 80% of falls. And in the UK, there will be more than 1,000 falls saved per day. And for every euro we invest in the solution, we're getting a return of 1.7 euros or pounds in that particular case. Thank you. Pascal, you're muted.
Hello, sorry. Life-changing stuff there. Thank you so much for that presentation. Judges, your 10 minutes starts now. Who would like to dive in with the first question?
I could go first. Thanks a lot, Vera, for the presentation. I was just keen on your revenue model. So to what percentage of your current revenues is one-off, meaning your customers then buying the lamp, versus recurring? Do you get any recurring revenues as well?
Yes, we do get recurring revenues, which is a monthly fee for our automated updates and so on. So that is two years of recurring revenue is approximately the same sum as the initial cost, although longer bindings would give some kind of discount for our clients. But typically clients buy it one-off and then go for a monthly revenue model, because we do ensure over-the-air updates, never update, for example, the software when the resident is in the room, and make sure that everything is hosted in a safe cloud. As I said, keep the data revision safe, all the security topics and those things.
Yeah, I have a question for you. What's your vision with regards to your sales channels and go-to-market? Will you be focusing on e-commerce routes, Amazon, your own website, retail, partnerships and OEMs with big manufacturers like Philips, for example, that are big into lighting? Well, tell me a little bit more about what your vision is from that perspective.
Yeah. When it comes to manufacturing, we do develop and build everything on our own in Antwerp. So it's totally made in Europe. And when it comes to sales, we do partner with organizations. We rarely do direct sales, of course, for important clients in our kind of near markets. And other than that, for the other countries, we are already active in 16 countries. We do partner with resellers that either have a care background and, for example, do sell care products already, from furniture to everyday products. And on the other hand, as well, light distributors who are already in the business, so that they do have existing market contacts and relationships we can use to tell the NOBI story.
And is your primary market assisted living centers or private individuals?
Basically, to close the gap in care, we have to cover the entire topic. So from the home care market to assisted living facilities and residential care homes. We started off with residential care homes. Why? Because simply there the processes are all clear, and that is easier to install it there and have a higher amount of newbies installed from the very beginning. Because what we won't do, or very unlikely, it's not a one-off thing you would sell in a online shop, because it comes with the need to understand that, for example, you need to have someone to come to help. The lamp as such is a super thing, but you need to know how do you configure it so that the right persons are notified that there is a fall. They should talk to the resident, calm the resident down, and then go and help grandma, uncle, or whomever. And therefore,
okay, sorry,
we always combine it with a service partner.
And the very, very short last question related to what I just asked, really. So are you planning to have like hundreds of like technology resellers that focus on assisted living, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. I think this is a very needed solution. So I applaud you for your work on this. It's a real benefit to humanity. I hope it can be very successful.
Thank you very much.
Stephen. Yeah.
Congratulations. It's really, really well done what you're doing here. I'm just going to drill in a little bit more about your revenue. So what's your compounded or what's your revenue growth per month? And do you have your definable EBITDA? I mean, where do you see the path to profitability in terms of your journey here? So, and then maybe in terms of your gross margins as well. I don't know if you can give any of that information.
Well, could provide some information after that. Basically, the target is the target is to have kind of break even end of this year. I mean, we had huge, of course, development costs because we even generated the data to train the system on. As I said, we're doing all our hardware, developing and manufacturing it on ourselves. But right now that we are in the right cycles, and we had already quite some lead time to get partners building and constructing new homes. That's the easiest point to sell it. We're very confident that by the end of the year we are there where we really start to earn money, with of course also the margins then to increase with the higher numbers we are then able to produce. And we have still quite some level to ramp up our production facility in Antwerp.
Great.
Thanks. We've just got over 4 minutes left, so who would like to jump in with the next question?
Yeah, let me jump in there if you don't mind. Hi Vera, nice to see you. You're in Austria, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my folks, actually, one of the people, they grew up in a little small town, Ingolstadt. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Really small little place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me tell you, falling is a big issue, and particularly as you get older, as some of these younger people probably can't appreciate these days, but as you get older, it becomes a big issue. And it's in fact, one of our clients just came up with a whole fall prevention curriculum that they're using to teach hospitals and certain types of clinics. So it's a big issue. I have a couple questions on just the technology itself. So you have the lamp, someone, let's say, falls. Does the technology alert folks if there is a fall? What is it doing? If someone falls and they're using your product, how is that being communicated to whoever needs to know about it?
Basically, first thing is the lamp identifies that there has been a fall, and the lamp does it. It does not need to be calibrated and so on. So the model is trained on object detection and on post detection. We simply hang the lamp where the old lamp used to be, give it just like a one-day learning time, and then it does what it's supposed to do. It identifies there was a fall. It can optionally ask, have you fallen? Because my mom would say, no, I'm just doing my shavasana on the yoga mat. My mother-in-law would freak out. Then the lamp can call, and can call means can be integrated with an existing nurse call system or can do a normal phone call. My mother is living in the middle of nowhere, and then Nobi acts as a two-way communication module, so I can talk to her and say, okay, mom, it takes me half an hour to get to you, but just keep calm. Don't try to get up on your own. Don't you mess around with the chairs or things like that. I'll be there and help you. And it would even, if, for example, my mother-in-law would not talk to me, it would even give me the possibility to check on, for example, the stick figures to get an idea. Was it a really bad fall, or did she just slip off the edge of the bed, which, for example, other devices wouldn't even recognize as a fall? And if it takes me too long, then I could even call, for example, the ambulance. And if my mother-in-law had even a smart door lock, the app we have could even allow me to open the smart door lock only in case of a fall. So
Okay.
that's super
I've got a
important.
couple more questions then. Sarah, I know you want to jump in here as well. Let me just
Can
ask
I,
two more
sorry, can I leave it to Sarah? We've got
questions. Yeah,
only time for one
that's fine.
question left.
Thank you so much. Good
Sorry.
luck, Vera. Thank you.
Thank
No
you.
worries.
Thanks so much. Hi there. Well, thanks so much for the great presentation. So I was just curious, as far as from a, reducing inequalities, how else, or has your team thought about, just consciously making this, I guess, device affordable for as many people as possible? Or I'm just a little bit curious about that component of how we can reduce inequity, since this does really truly impact, regardless of someone's, economic background, this impacts everyone. And so I'd love to have this kind of tech get in the hands of as many people as possible.
Right now, we are not in a position where we would be affordable for those who are socially a bit weaker. What are we trying to do is investing a lot in talking to politicians, for example, because it has an overall society, an impact on the overall society, because it simply saves money. It saves ambulance call-outs. It saves additional care. It saves people needing to be taken to residential care. So we are really convinced that it makes sense also for governmental organizations to support it. And in the developed countries, governmental organizations kind of sponsoring technology to close the gap in care will help us to even ramp up the production even more, therefore reducing our production cost and our costs when selling the product at the market, allowing more and more people also on a private level to benefit. What do we do right now with our partners? We kind of rent it out, like you would rent out an emergency call system, saying, okay, especially if you live in a remote location, Nobi gives you safety. And it's easier than having people going and seeing you 3 times a day to check up, are you okay? It's easier and way cheaper to have Nobi there that alerts in case of an emergency. But that's a process. So we need state funding in the developing countries to ramp up and then allow others to participate.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for, but we will have questions at the end for our audience. Please do send in those questions. So our next startup is an AI bin. So let me hand the floor to Relearn. You have 5 minutes starting now.
Okay. So hello. Hello, everybody. I'm Ricardo, and I'm here to present you Relearn. And I'll try to be very, very practical in what we are doing. So we are a waste management optimization solution that uses artificial intelligence. I'm gonna show you what we do through a use case we developed in one of our customer location. So basically we measure the possibility of saving 1.8 thousand euros per year per waste bin station that is composed by 3 waste bin for correct segregation. How we did this using our product, our technology, that is a sensor that is plug and play sticked on already existing bin, and thanks to AI recognize every kind of object you are throwing inside a bin and the filling level of the bin when the bags or the waste bags are changed. So what we measure that the 98% of recyclable into those application that is an airport are actually recyclable items. So it's supposed to be thrown elsewhere. And the additional costs are about 1,000 euros per year. For this reason, we measure that the 42% of waste bag changing process are not necessary. And the 30% of the man hours spent in cleaning operation are not necessary, are due to a not optimized path of cleaning operators through the airport. So we implemented our solution into 81 bins, more or less, in a specific area of the airport, and our solution was composed by three components. So the original bin, that means that you do not have to change your existing bin, of sensor that is plug and play stick and measure the object inside the bin, the segregation quality and the filling level of the bin, and the Intera, and also are able to send alert to the operators, cleaning operators, to decide when they have to replace the waste bag, and the display that actually support people in correct waste segregation, still using AI. So you have just to scan the object you have in your hand if you have some doubt. And also our solution allows us to send specific messages to inform users about the correct rules of this application. So we have been able to achieve great results in terms of cost saving. It's about 80 euros per month. Affecting waste disposal cost and emission, total waste bag, and man-hour saving. An additional value of what we are doing is to provide to our customers all the data they need for sustainability reporting, as well as different kind of certification into also an API form. We are different from our competitors because there are a lot of solutions that allow you to measure your waste production, but we are able to measure the recycling rate and to improve the recycling rate using communication. And we can do this because of our technology, that is image recognition. And yeah, that's the reason why we are different. So we think that technology is useful only when is a support for people. So that was just one of our applications. We are active in 35 customers all over the Europe, improving recycling, improving also people behavior, reducing cost in terms of waste management and disposal cost, and also using spreading the correct awareness in terms of stakeholders for sustainability reports.
1 minute left.
Yes, our strategy is to use distributors, and we are already doing this, that are selling our solution to final customers. We plan to expand in different locations from Europe to reach in the next 2 years a global reach, and we plan also to do a Series A round by the end of this year. That's the team of Relearn. There's a long story, but basically it's made by a lot of failures, and right now we are into the good direction with 35 customers, 600,000 of recurring revenue right now, and we raised 1.2 million euros in terms of seed round. That's the team of Relearn, a team made by young people that share a lot of motivation, previous experience as an entrepreneur. We are people who fail but who learn fast, and that's the reason why one day we will turn waste into resource using technology. Thank you.
Thank you. That was 5 minutes exactly. Well done, Riccardo. So, judges, you have 10 minutes. Who'd like to dive in first?
Ricardo, question regarding your revenue. That 2.5 million, is that euros? Is that projected for 2024? Is that what did you have revenue last year, 2023?
My revenue, sorry, last year it was about 200,000 euros ARR. So we are recurring revenue model.
Okay, so projecting 2.5 million revenue euro this year, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and just to clarify on the technology itself, is your technology fully built? Is there any additional development you have to do on that technology?
Yeah, sometimes we have to, because customer location are always different. So we have a little setup phase in terms of regulation for different countries, waste disposal regulation, and also for the building itself that is different. So we have to design the cleaning operator's path in a different way each time. So yeah, we have this customized process every time. Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Two questions on the revenue side. Can you maybe forecast a little bit further out? And where do you see yourself break even from a company standpoint? And then from a technology standpoint, how are you managing security and so on? So,
I think that so right now we are a kind of break even. So we are generating in this very moment a positive cash flow, but we plan to invest this additional and very small amount of money we already generated into hiring. So by the end of the year, we will plan to generate some positive account, but not that much, as you can see. And the security in terms of IT level or physical, what do you mean for security?
actually, on the IT, on the technology side, how are you maintaining security and so on? So,
Yeah, basically, I left this this side of the company to one of our co-founder, that is Federico, that is our CTO. Basically, we are running our solution on a secure AWS solution. So we are running the analysis there, and we do not have nothing on the edge. And yeah, so it's right now I think that all our customer approve our solution. So we will for sure get some additional certification like 27001 for sure for demonstrating our security. But yeah, I'm not very prepared about this topic, honestly.
So I want to thank you, and I thought it was an interesting what you're doing here. So thank you again.
Thank you.
I have a quick question, just as far as so what is your plan for just kind of overall marketing strategy? Like, what is that plan to make more, generate awareness, more impact leads? Like, just kind of what's that overall scope that you all are thinking of?
So do you mean to get more customers, or to let more people aware about the importance of waste management? What's the
I would first start with customers, and then yeah, just which is pretty much hand in hand, though, because I think in order, if you're going to go try to outreach to folks, that's by default awareness that you're then helping spread. So I'm just curious, like, how you're going to generate pipeline, which ultimately also defaults to awareness.
Yeah, actually, we are generating pipeline into live events, so or by meeting in person our customer, and this is a very small account of our business. So the main part is thanks to distributors that allow us also for the installation of the sensors. So all of these are cleaning operators or real estate operators or waste management operators that allow us to not be the one who physically install the sensors. And they are also the one who are selling our solution to the final customers, or they are the final customers too. So yeah, we as Relearn are meeting live possibly our potential customers, but the main part is thanks to our distributors.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We've got just over half the time left. So, Carlo, do you want to
have a last question? Yeah. So, Ricardo, can you tell me a little bit about how, whether, first of all, you're planning to increase the amount of distributors, and also just to check that we're using the same language. By distributors, do you mean wholesalers or do you mean resellers?
Oh, they are resellers of yeah, for sure they have a certain markup of what they are doing, but they are resellers, and sometimes they are distributing the solution into an already existing customer to reduce their own cost when we are talking about cleaning operators or waste management company.
So what's the business and what's the business model for them? How do you incentivize them to really make a wrap up?
Well, it's related to the fact that the higher the account is, the higher the number of the sensors and display we can order, so we can give to them discounts that are basic economics scale, and then they can leverage this opportunity more to be.
Thank you
Got
very
time
much.
for one or two more questions. Who would like?
I could
Jacqueline,
go.
can I give the
Yeah.
let you ask a question? Yeah.
Super, thanks. Thanks a lot, Ricardo. Just had a quick question on your percentage accuracy. So what's the error rate on the image recognition tech?
Yeah, it depends on the it depends on the waste sector, because we are working on different sectors. But in this case, for instance, for the urban waste, so standard waste like plastic bottle, whatever you can produce at your home, we can reach 92%. And I'm saying we can reach because we start from 85. And then we have a setup phase that is about 2 weeks in order to refine our artificial intelligence model based on the specific background, like condition, etc., and specific objects, so that we can reach 92%.
Joseph, you can have the last question.
Yeah, thank you. Ricardo, I had a question regarding where you are currently selling your products. You had a slide there that I think mentioned, you said UAE expansion, US expansion. Are you currently selling in Europe?
Yes. And
why is it Europe on your slide here?
Because it's not on our plan. It's in our current. And basically, I'm saying in United Arabic area, because we already signed a distribution agreement for one of our customers that has a lot of building there, so that's a consequence. And all the
so
rest.
Got it. You look at your current sales. What's the breakdown country wise? How much in UAE versus US versus Europe? Is that
UAE is 0 till now, so we want to start growing there. We have our two main account is Italy and the UK. In Italy, we have the 60% of our customer, while in the UK we have about 20%, and the rest are in Spain, in the Netherlands, in Denmark, and one in Germany. Yes.
Okay, so home base is Europe, and then your goal is to expand UAE and then US and then beyond.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. So next up, our startup is working with the deaf community. So I'd like to introduce you to Soundex. Soundex, you have 5 minutes for your pitch.
Hello. Let me show my screen. Hello, everyone. This is a quote from a really renowned composer that I think all of you know, Beethoven, that said that music is like a dream, one that I cannot hear. And this is something that is really important for us, is music has such a big role in our lives, and how can people live without it? So we started looking a bit for some figures, and it's important to know that today over 400 million people, including 34 million children, have disabling hearing loss. And by 2050, it is estimated that 1 in every 10 people will experience this. And not only a fraction of them are equipped with hearing aids, but these only perceive certain frequencies and focus on the voice and not music. So our journey started actually years ago when our founder, Damian Quinter, was in the middle of an orchestra recording a session. And the vibration of the 200 musicians just went through him. And he always says that it was so strong that he could feel everything but hear nothing. But he really felt the emotion that was behind. And this our starting point, how we can share this emotion with the deaf community just by feeling vibrations. So the idea is how we can create an AI, the first AI that can translate music and sounds in real time into vibrations for the deaf community. So we started putting in place a partnership with a reference institute, the National Institute of Deaf Kids here in Paris. And they confirm that the kids that don't have hearing aids, and even the ones that have hearing aids, don't want to play music. They play a bit with the drums, they play a bit with the piano, but without feeling anything. So they don't really get interested into that. So we started like creating this prototype, and we just wanted to get to know the deaf kids, the deaf community, understand what they needed, what they wanted to feel, because this is something that is, as a hearing people, I feel that they could deserve the chance to experiment this. So we did this first test in 2018, and these were the reactions of one kid, Leah, that I present you. So maybe to give you a better understanding of what we created is actually what is important to know is that human audition and vibration are really have a different experience. I mean, what naturally vibrates is just a fraction of sound. So what exists today that vibrates, because the deaf community already are using some products on the market, they only feel the low frequencies, the bass, the beat, the rhythm. So what we're trying to do now with the AI is how we can translate all the audio spectrum and really for the first time feel every note of the piano, the nuances of a voice, even the subtle whisper of the wind. So this is the kind of precision that we're looking for and that we're actually achieving. So implementing the technology was quite challenging as any startup because we had huge servers, computers, sound cards, cables left everywhere. And now with just an iPhone, you can feel all the sounds around you. Simply, what happens is you're going to plug the iPhone to a vibration device, either ours or the one in the market, or you can even feel the haptics of your phone. Once you activate the app, the mic is going to capture all the sound, and the AI is going to generate calibrated vibrations by the deaf community. So today, concert halls have the power to welcome the deaf community. In schools, kids can now explore new musical instruments and enhance their language skills. And in everyday life, it alerts users also to important sounds like approaching cars or a baby crying in real time.
Unfortunately, Danielle, we are out of time there, but I'm sure the judges will pick up and ask you some questions. Really great, impressive technology there. So who'd like to take the first question?
Yes, I mean, it's really quite impressive what you're trying to do. It definitely has a significant impact globally. What are you doing in terms of market alliances and partnerships? In fact, I didn't see that in your deck as well. I mean, what's your path to growth? How you are gaining adoption? How are you driving that adoption for growth? What's your revenue right now? What do you think you're going to be break even?
Yes.
So all these kinds of questions. How do you mitigating risk in this stuff? How are you managing security? There's a lot of questions that are not in your deck or in your presentation. So.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe our approach was really experimental at the beginning. We had this idea and we just contacted the institute, and actually our strategy always started with education. We contacted institutes specialized with deaf kids, and we started to understand how the technology can really bring something else to educational settings. And this is when we discovered that we can also go to concert halls, to festivals, to museums, to cinemas, to even stadiums for sports competitions. So actually, while we were like meeting this community and experts in deafness, we discovered how the market, how big can be. And the idea to just put an app on the iPhone just came out of an experiment. And we, even though the AI was already an idea, but just to put it on your pocket, that was the powerful shift that we got. Is now that anyone can really use the technology. So now what we're doing is really only targeting professionals, which means concert halls, festivals, and are going to enable to give access to this technology to the deaf community. So the deaf community shouldn't pay for it. So it's only organizations to open up the doors to this community and really give access to something, to cultural experiences and even better tools for education.
So what's your growth strategy in terms of like how much market do you have? How many people do you have actively using it? What's your growth on a monthly basis and in terms of activation and usage of your technology? What's your revenue path and your path to break even?
Yes. So it has been maybe 1 year that we got the technology ready. So our only partner was the Institut National of Deaf Kids here in Paris. Now we have 40 partners in France. We're opening up the market in the UK, also on Australia and the States. We're trying to touch like big reference institutes because we need the deaf community to get to know this, because there are prescribers for this. So they are the ones that are in touch with accessibility teams in concert halls and festivals. So this is how we're putting this strategy just to go inside the market. So right now what we do is a lot of hiring the equipment and having monthly fee for the app. This is the model that is working best. We're still working on it because for festivals would not be the same that is going to use this technology just one time for 3 days, and it will be different for institutes that need it for the whole year. So this is why we're trying to adapt how the technology can really be used in a daily basis, or can have value just for 3 days. Yeah, I don't know if I answered the question. Actually, I got lost on my speech.
But to be sustainable, you have to have revenue.
Sorry?
So what's your revenue? I mean, how's your revenue growing?
So for now, our recurring revenue is about the license of the app. So people pay to use it monthly or annually. This is our more just to stabilize and just keep going and maintain the company. What we do even more or next to it is to hire equipment and my team that brings everything and handle everything in each event. So this is how we're like getting to know more people and open up, because this is how festivals that are the more interested ones want to bring the technology and give access to the community. So we just manage our revenue with the monthly fee and the revenue we get with the equipment, with the hardware, is something more for us to keep testing and improving the tech.
I thank you for your answering the various questions. Though I'm still uncertain, sort of like the actual revenue and your path to revenue break even to be sustainable. But thank you for. I think it's a marvelous function that you're performing. So thank you again.
Okay, we're just over halfway through the question section. So who would like to ask the next one?
Happy to ask a question, if I may. So just to understand this better, Daniela, so you provide the application on the iPhone or the smartphone, and then what actually vibrates? Is it the phone itself, or is there an additional device that gets plugged into the phone?
For now, it's an additional device. So we developed ours. That's what you can see here on the screen.
Okay.
So it's like a backpack. But
Got it.
as we know that there is already a lot of existing vibration devices on the market, even though they are less precise, it really works really well on festivals or different kind of music. So that's why we decided to put the technology also on an app that can also be connected to other devices, to open up also and integrate these to different, also to consoles that are already equipped, but still sell this license for the app.
Okay. So presumably you don't manufacture it yourself. You buy that in from a manufacturer that makes these, and then you relabel them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And no, I think it's obviously it's an excellent thing. So just making me dream a little bit here. And I understand your strategy of selling it to events, locations. It makes perfect sense to include make the community included. But in the long term, do you see? Let's say I was deaf and I wanted to use Spotify and experience music. Would I be able to use the device in that way as well as a home user?
This is the idea. For now, our strategy was B2B because we're like really creating everything, and we wanted also for the deaf community is new. So people that lost their hearing they're more interested in just discover new experiences or still be connected to this cultural world. So for the deaf kids, it will be different. That's why we started with education, starting with really, really small kids. So they know now that when they're going to grow up or they're going to have their home, they can also have this technology. So this is our next step for us, is how we can make it.
And if I may just go back to Stephen's question, I think there was lost in translation there. I wanted to ask, so are you already making money from this? And if so, how many euros are you making by month?
We started maybe 6 months ago, the selling part and the hiring part. I would say we are around between 30 and 50K per month. This is our first year. And we're still a small company.
That's an impressive start.
Yeah.
It's a very good number. And how fast do you see that grow?
Actually, it's growing really, really fast, and I'm not sure if we are capable to deploy as fast as the market wants it. That's our.
And your role in the company, are you the CEO?
Yes.
Okay. I'm done with my questions. Thanks, Daniela.
Yeah, we've got time just for one more. So who would like to ask the last question? Any takers? Sarah?
I mean, but mine were more, I was going to kind of drill. I don't want to be repetitive of what the judges already asked, just as far as kind of drilling down more into, I guess, the marketing strategy, because I'm still a bit unclear on really what the go-to-market strategy is and and really how the revenue generating is going to come from it. And so I guess, are you all like planning to, from a field marketing perspective, are you planning to, whether you do go to trade shows, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to have a booth, but I guess whether activations, or are you building an online social media presence? Like, how are you at least generating awareness in the word so folks do know that your solution does exist?
I mean, this is something that started actually quite easily, I would say. With the first institute, they start talking to the others because they don't have this and they need it. But they don't expect people to create something for them because it's so small market, I would say, just 400 million people. So we started just with education because they have funds to really buy this kind of technology and really custom this for them. So this is how we started. And actually, by doing that, we just got in touch with some deaf people, deaf artists that are really renowned worldwide. There are ambassadors and also prescribes the tech. So this is how we started.
Unfortunately, we are out of time there. And as we have so many startups today, I'm sorry, we're going to have to move it along, but I will ask you some questions soon, Daniela. Our last startup, we have Voiceitt. Voiceitt, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm so really, truly honored to be here. I'm co-founder of Voiceitt. We are a voice AI startup with a mission to help people with speech disabilities and non-standard speech communicate by voice and be understood. Voiceitt really started from a personal experience and still resonates on a personal note, certainly for our founding team and our core team and growing community. In my case, it was my grandmother diagnosed early onset Parkinson's disease. She was age 40, and by the time that I was born, she had lost most of her motor capabilities, but more than anything, it was her speech that was impacted. In the case of my co-founder, Danny, it was a family member with stroke. So a different situation, someone he was very close with that suddenly lost her ability to communicate by voice and be understood. So the stories in our families were our inspiration to develop a voice AI, a speech recognition that can learn the person's way of speaking and help them to communicate with other people. We like to say the best way to explain what we do and why is literally in the voices of our users. So I'll introduce you to Dr. Claire Malone, TED speaker and quantum physicist in the UK. She sent us this video showing how she uses the Voiceitt technology in our first product, a consumer application to dictate notes and communicate with others.
This technology gives me freedom to write emails whenever I want without needing more assistance available to help.
So that just gives you a general idea of how it works. What we originally had the idea of helping the person communicate with other people. As you saw in that demo, now we're understanding that we can do a lot more in an age where voice technology is increasingly the way that we interact with our devices. Voiceitt's really at essentially really the right timing for speech recognition, whether it's smart homes, smart cars, voice assistants. Voiceitt essentially opens the world of new AI and existing mainstream devices to individuals with non-standard speech. It's a lot more diverse population than even we imagined. It includes, of course, people with degenerative disease with non-standard speech as a result, like in my family, stroke, brain injury, deafness, Down syndrome, and many other situations affecting speech, including aging populations who may have non-standard speech, not because of a disease or an illness, but because of changes neurologically as they age. So it's a large and growing and interesting market, intersecting both conversational AI as well as accessibility, inclusion, and diversity. We're at a really interesting niche within this market where we're seeing that major companies are getting involved, showing interest in accessibility, but not entering the market yet in a product space. So right now, we're still really the only ones focusing with commercial applications for speech recognition. We have a product in the market, both an API and a consumer app, and moving forward, already have plans to move to additional languages and further into the space of non-standard speech, being the provider of speech recognition for non-standard speech. Our business model includes our consumer app as well as our API and complementary to each other as well. We already have traction both on the consumer app level as well as the API through reseller partnerships on the one end, as well as leveraging our corporate relationships, including some that are investors in Voiceitt, such as Amazon, Microsoft, and Cisco. Our leadership team, I'm one of the co-founders. We sort of combine machine learning experts, clinicians, And our CEO now, Allison, joined us from Cisco. She led the investment in Voiceitt from Cisco, and then joined us, now leading our company in our next stage of growth.
Okay, I'm afraid that is all we've got time for. I'm sure the questions will grill you on anything else you have left to say. So I want to now give the floor to the judges who would like to dive in first.
Yeah, I thought this was really, really fascinating what you're doing, because I'm embedded in Microsoft and big tech. So I definitely like to hear about your, path to revenue growth and break even, and how and when that's going to occur. So what's your ARR, annual repeat revenue? Is that growing on a monthly basis? And then I have a couple of other questions as well. So first of all,
Yeah, I really appreciate that question, first of all, to begin with, because we are a startup with a mission, but on the other hand, have really the right place at the right time in terms of showing our commercial potential and opportunities. So our first, in terms of recurring revenues, we launched our first reseller partnership in North America with an assistive technology reseller called Raz Mobility last year. And through this partnership have gained initial traction and momentum, specifically in education and healthcare. And they're really our route into selling into governments as well. And these are assistive technology areas where assistive technology can be funded through government programs. And so that's sort of source of already recurring revenue and traction. On the API side, this traction is stemming from our initial integrations. We did our first integration with Amazon Alexa. We announced it in 2020, so that was during the pandemic, and last year with WebEx by Cisco. But these are, not exclusive. We're now in discussions with other, technology providers interested in integrating our technology. We've done a few paid pilots. And we see this as the broader commercial opportunity, but with a longer sales cycle. Together, those reseller partnerships and through the consumer app and then the API integrations will lead us, we project conservatively, to have us break even by early 2026.
Right. And are you in revenue? Like, do you have repeat revenue monthly right now of, let's say, 20,000 euros or something like that? Or do you have some kind of...
Yeah, the recurring revenues are through the consumer application, through the resellers. I can't give you the exact numbers, but what I can say is as a result of this traction in North America, we've since attracted the interest of additional resellers, not only in that region, but also in UK, Australia. Those are, focus on English-speaking markets, and planning for growth into other areas in the EU as we expand to additional languages, starting with Spanish, and then others as we collect data and leverage our relationships and network in the EU and internationally.
Only because I'm so sort of embedded in big tech, what prevents them from leveraging what you're doing and creating their own tech, especially using LLMs, which are becoming much better at being able to do this kind of thing, or superseded by other tech, like a couple of weeks ago, a voice patch wireless was released, where it can monitor your vocal vibrations and thereby do translation or do something what you're doing, or even the neural kind of direct communication using LLM. So there's a number of technology that could supersede doing. So how are you going to manage them?
Absolutely. And there's, in addition to what you mentioned, there's also incredible brain-computer interface. So ways of helping people with communication challenges to connect, whether with other people or to interact with other technologies. It's absolutely true. If any of, major technology companies throw 100 engineers on this problem, they can solve just like, they can solve anything else, for the most part, right? But like any machine learning endeavor, the main barrier to entry is going to be the data. And that's where we really maintain our early mover advantage, as well as our network within the community. So we've been, collecting voice data through our partners, really around the world for the last few years. And now continue to augment our AI data sets as we have a product in the market. So not asking people to donate their voices, for example, but really providing value to these end users as we, in turn collect the data, anonymized and, with all privacy and regulations in place, but to then go into our database or speech corpus. So, and then directly to your question, I'll note that the big five, meaning like the biggest five, the biggest technology companies on earth actually announced a project last year called the Speech Accessibility Project. They're collecting voice samples of people with non-standard speech, including some with diagnoses that are touching our user base. This could lead to then it's not commercial at the moment, it's research, and they've actually approached us to collaborate with them. We see this as validation. We are doing something worth solving, and competitors could be entering the market. We still have a major lead in terms of the audio data, in terms of the community of users, in terms of the product that we've built, both on the API level and the consumer application, where it's addressing the needs of users with complex needs, not just meaning being accessible to people who often don't just have a speech disability, but have other impairments, cognitive, visual, dexterity, mobility, in addition to their speech challenge. And we, address those as well.
We've got time for a couple more questions, so I'd like to bring Joseph in.
Yeah, how much time do we have? We have one judge pretty much asked most of the questions here. How much time do we have?
We have a couple of minutes left, so we've got a couple of times.
I'm sorry, I was long-winded. I'm sorry.
A lot of time. It's all good. It's all good. I had a question for you. I think in this space, so just to be clear, the market segment here is what you're calling non-standard. So this would be obviously for atypical type speech pattern. I would gather the competition, right, is obviously, although big tech is obviously standard speech, I got to imagine, and I think I've done some reading on this, big tech has got to be, you touched on a little bit, it's got to be touching into this space. So I would imagine that forming a partnership or an alliance with a big tech company so that you guys aren't on an island by yourself has got to be a fairly important objective for the company, right? It's got to be.
100%. We're actually Microsoft, Amazon, and Cisco are investors in Voiceitt.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're working with others already as well, with pilot
Gotcha. Let me ask a couple
integrations.
of questions. I know we're running out of time. How long has the company been around? When was the company formed?
Yeah, we were formed in 2012. So we've been around for a while, and pivoted to kind of this idea in the last 5 years or so.
Oh, okay. The tech that you have, is that the company grown tech, or is that tech you acquired from another company? Or
both of the data and the underlying core technology is 100% owned by Voiceitt. We developed it, collected the data, and it's all ours.
Last question. I know you were somewhat reticent in terms of asking or commenting on specifically where your revenue was.
Sure.
I'm just curious. So 2 questions there. One is, when did you start generating revenue? And could you just give me just a general range in terms of where your revenue is? Just a range. So when did you start generating it, and then what's the range?
Yeah, sure. So we launched our next generation technology, which is the current product, with a price tag attached last year. So it was only in 2023. And that was with our app, with
Just looking for a range on the revenue. Just give me a range.
Yeah. We're in the $100,000 range, dollar amounts, and looking to close API, our API deals, either consumption-based model or licensing, as we, complete negotiations around the customized API in the next few months.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot.
Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. Unfortunately, we are out of time. So thank you for all those pictures from our great startups. Now, judges, it's your turn to make a decision, which will be quite difficult to select the winner. If you could please connect to the separate call link as instructed. And once the decision is made, let us know and come back here. And don't forget to mute and turn off your camera. So while our judges are making a decision, I would like to speak with all our finalists today. As mentioned at the beginning of the session, the winner today will participate in the Robotics for Good Innovation Grand Finale with the opportunity to get a cash prize of 20K and access to exclusive KUKA mentorship. So firstly, I'd like to ask each of you, how would you use this money? So let's start with Intera. How would you use the money? How would it change your company?
Well, thank you, Pascal. Yeah, that's a great question. For us right now, fundraising is absolutely crucial to continue improving both our AI model, which is really a continuous job and extremely important, and two, especially to strengthen our sales team. So it would go 100% into that. I mean, I think we're in an amazing position of having a product that is so great in terms of business metrics and at the same time of producing such profound and massive impact for so many people. So getting sales going strong right now is our absolute priority. So that would be a game changer for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Vera from Nobi, if you won, how would this change and impact your company?
Not quite similar to what Hannah said. I mean, we're right now focusing on generating sales and revenue, that's it. But with having the option of investing even more manpower in getting those models also with governmental partners up and running, which is even in Europe a pretty tricky thing because it's small pieces of regulatory things. So it's not one solution in the entire European Union. To find the first movers in terms of countries or provinces, like for example now the UK is doing, that will be then our super focus point if we won, because that gives us the possibility to help even a greater portion of our fellow citizens in a faster period of time.
Yeah, no, I'll come back to your questions on Europe and how difficult it is for startups. But first I want to come to Ricardo. How would the money change what your company is doing? How would it impact you?
Yeah, we will definitely use this grant for participating to international events that are our main location for finding new opportunities, new customers. I don't know why my camera is turned off. And yeah, so we will use this amount of money for participating to international event that is a little bit expensive for us right now. So
yeah, I understand. Now the European company there. So the audience here, and if you have any questions, now's the time to dive in with those. But first, I want to come back to Daniela and ask you how the prize would change what Soundex is doing. Daniela, are you there? Okay, let me go to Sarah from Voiceitt then. How would the money for the mentorship also help you?
Yeah, well, our focus is sales, we have, a product or technology that was really science fiction a short while ago. And now we are laser focused on getting the product into the hands of people who can benefit from it. And that would be really use of funds and any other support, networking and other resources.
Yeah, okay, so it would make a huge difference to you all there.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, there must be many challenges at the moment, especially in the startup field. It's, a bit of tough times at the moment. So what is the feedback that you were getting? Are you quite worried? What difference have you seen this year?
Is that question for me as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think there are so many question marks around what's happening in our industry, meaning AI generally as a whole. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time, just a huge amount, I think, of optimism and opportunity as well. From what we are seeing, there's increasing understanding that in whatever direction we're taking as like humanity and technology development and adoption, we can't afford to leave people behind. And so there's increasing awareness really of the business case and ensuring that new technologies are accessible, equitable, and really having real impact, making people's lives better and making that a priority. So we see optimism in that direction.
Absolutely, and it's definitely the UN's SDG goals there too. I want to come to you, Vera. We were talking about Europe, we were talking about regulation. Europe's just got its AI Act, which is coming together. Is that making any difference to your kind of startups?
No, it's not making things harder. So that's the good thing is that Europe used to have the reputation of being super restrictive, and now they're moving and giving some guidelines. That's a good thing. That doesn't give us a hard time. What gives us basically a hard time, if we would call it hard time, is that we have super positive feedback on the product. But even for big care organizations, it's hard to find budget these days. And given the fact that in many European countries, health and care are not kind of one budget, it's hard, and they're not used. Generally, Europe is not good in spending money on prevention. We rather spend money on cure.
Yeah,
and here we're definitely in the prevention topic. But overall, things as the AI Act, I think, are even beneficiary for us, because from the very beginning of our company, following rules and maybe taking some rules, ethical, technical and political ones, even stricter than they are formulated, is kind of in our DNA. So if you ask me whether we're happy or not with the AI Act, I'd say we're happy with it.
Yeah. Daniel, sorry, Vera, I also want to ask you, being a health startup, what kind of motivates you to keep going? Because as you were saying, it's difficult with all the rules and regulations for Europe. So how do you, it must be frustrating at times.
Sometimes, but the thing is, we had more than 2,250 real falls that were reported and where we could help people. And if I get the feedback that we have a 99-year-old lady living in a residential care home for years and always sleeping with her door open because she was what we would call a frequent faller, and installing Nubi and giving her the freedom to sleep with a closed door again, giving her the confidence and the caregivers the confidence that anybody will be there within a minute if something happens. That's what gives so much back, that we still have the power to go on, even if people come back and say, okay, right now we don't even have the money to replace a broken care bed. Yeah, and there are some first movers research programs, and we're talking to many politicians saying you need to just give you two small figures. Residential care homes need to have an occupancy of approximately 92% so that it pays off. We have long waiting lists, but many residential care homes can't operate more than 80% of their beds because there's no staff. So we need to have a change in regulation, and we need to have certified technology that helps to close the gap. And it might still take some time, but it's the only way out in our perception. So
yeah,
I'd say I keep wearing sneakers and not high heels, so I can do lots of kilometers running from people to discuss and changing the game.
Sounds great. So, Hannah, I want to come to you. We've spoken a bit about Europe there. You're based in Mexico. How easy or how difficult is it for AI startups over there?
Well, that's a great question. I think in Mexico, if I'm very honest, there is absolutely tiny community of AI startups. Actually, to build a network of fellow entrepreneurs to connect with and inspire each other. I'm reaching out to entrepreneurs in a lot of different countries because here it's so nascent. In LATAM in general, for context, there is not really a lot of investment in AI yet, especially in leading deals on that. It's like there's still a lot of waiting and seeing and rather following the lead, especially from the US in terms of what's going on. That also means in turn that we don't see a lot of regulation. For us, the US is a very direct market because a lot of the potential clients we're already in talks with usually buy regionally, which means the office is for the US and LATAM. So that means for us that rather than looking at Mexican regulation or LATAM regulation, we look at the US, which right now is moving a lot, but is in general much more, much less restrictive than Europe, which is not great in all regards. I think there's also not a lot of thought going into how to create better AI, what we are talking about here today. I think in the US, we see a huge tendency for just putting AI out there and sort of winning the competition against China, against other countries that are heavily investing in this. So I'd say that makes it easier for us, but I'm not necessarily in favor of it being that way.
Yeah, so it's a bit of both for sure to manage. Ricardo, in Italy, how are you seeing AI regulation in Europe, which is a little bit more strict than elsewhere?
I think that it's a good point to use regulation, specifically because it helps a lot of people, or specifically those one who are market related and that are surfing this enthusiasm about AI, to properly understand the consequences of what we are doing, because we should not forget that each AI system is consuming CO2, because each training is done by a huge calculation power of services, servers. So we have to understand the impact of what we are doing. So we have to be really precise in the usage of this very powerful tool, but that has important impact from privacy and for sure also for environment. So for me, it's okay to regulate. I'm enjoying living in Europe that is trying to regulate this new opportunity, because it can be a kind of far west.
Yeah, a bit of a Wild West. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to ask you a little bit about funding, because as Hannah mentioned there, or Vera as well, there's a lot of uncertainty about AI for investors. Because it is growing, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. So how have you found investment and trying to convince investors to work with your company?
Is it so for me?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Basically, at least in Italy, that is a poor market for investment for VC. It's not that complicated, because if you have traction, if you are really demonstrating you are solving issue and you are doing this in a very concrete way. So investors are not the real issue. If you unfortunately, if you have to pitch some more romantic stories, something more about vision and less with not that strong root from a business point of view, even in the very, very early stage phase of a startup, so even in bootstrapping, you won't have any investor that is listening to you here in Italy. So you have to be really, really practical business, and then you are not you may not have a lot of problem with finding investors.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about data collection. I want to come back to you, Vera. A lot of people are wary. How do you ensure that people's data is being protected?
Well, first of all, the Intera solution was built with full awareness of all the regulations here, where the data that is shared, the full related data and resident related data is reduced to the necessary minimum. What is it? It's basically the resident's name, because if the lamp would talk to, for example, my mother-in-law, it would ask her not her given name, but her kind of nickname, saying Mitzi instead of Maria. And then it's when the fall occurred. And if she decided to share, for example, stick figure graphs for 14 days, we will keep those stick figure graphs. Those data is stored in, well, you can say it AWS Cloud Europe or the US, and is only accessible by named users with the right or who are entitled to access that data for the resident. And we're keeping everything revision safe. So at any point in time, we do have things such as two-factor authentication. We know who's online, we know who access what data, and so on. Trying to have a full match with a thin line of the data we need to provide the best possible service and also learn from things. And on the other hand, reduce everything that is unnecessary. Why do we, for example, want to learn? Giving you an idea, if you have people with visual impairments and you then find out if Grandma Maria falls, she's always bumping into the edge of the room. She can't see it because it's white on white background for her. We might take some contrast colored things, stick it, or just some stickers and put it on there, and she would see it in the future. So to also learn from those things. But yeah, that's something where I'm pretty confident. My background is in banking IT. This is what I've been doing for 24 years before I, with all my passion, jumped into care industry. But that's kind of in my personal DNA, keep data safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah, I want to come back to you. I know you're on the move there, but I just want to ask you, because your company is more into bias and it's, handles people's data. How do you make sure that it's kept safe? And how do you reassure people using your software that their data is being kept safe?
For sure, Pascal, I'm so sorry you cut off a little bit, but you were asking how we keep it safe, right?
Hannah, I'm
sorry, it seems like my internet
connection's a little bit bad there,
off.
so unfortunately we'll leave it. But our judges are back, which means I think we have a winner. So I will hand over, which judge would like to announce the winner?
Kigima will announce the winner.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right.
So first of all, we'd really like to thank all the participants who were in this platform. We really enjoyed all the pitches, and honestly, we're really excited to even dig in more. Honestly, if it wasn't for time, we'd have really wanted to go in further, and I'm sure all the judges here are going to follow up with different conversations with all the founders just to try and see how we can at least help the companies, if at all, based on the different companies we work at. So without further ado, I don't know if we have any drum rolls, but we decided that the one who takes it all is Voiceitt. Yeah.
Congratulations to Voiceitt. Sarah, would you like to say anything?
Wow. Well, I think what I have to really, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. What I want to say is, as I was listening to the pitches, I'm just so honored to be part of this group. And more than anything, like our goal is to really create the impact that we envision, to make voice AI truly accessible and inclusive, making the best of what new technologies have to offer available to everyone. And I think this is something that really touches so many people around the world and in different contexts. And really the sky's the limit at this point, and really excited to be and you know.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much, and congratulations. Thanks to all our amazing startups today. They've been great. Our wonderful judges, of course. I'm now going to pass you back to Guillaume.
Could the other judges sort of make some additional comments? Is that okay? Or
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so Sarah, congratulations. Wonderful business model technology. I think I did note the concern about the competition, but to your point, you folks have aligned with some very, very large companies, which I think is going to be favorable for you in your future. I also just wanted to congratulate all of the other companies. We were talking in the backstage, and we were noting for some of the judges that have been around a long time, this is probably, not to certainly heavily critique the other past performances, everyone's done a great job, but this particular pitching session we thought was particularly well done, very well-rounded. When you think about some of the initiatives that the UN around SDG, when you think about just interesting technology integrating AI, go-to-market strategy, execution, commercialization, and where there was competition, where you potentially can partner with competitors, if you will. We thought everyone, for the most part, did a great job here. So I just wanted to say that obviously Voiceitt won this, but all the other companies did a fantastic job, and we appreciate the energy and commitment and passion that everyone showed today on the pitches.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody here, ITU, Guillaume, and the entire Innovation Factories colleagues and so on. Jacqueline, thank you for announcing and chairing the announcement to the group. And then I second that. It was just really outstanding startups here, and I congratulate the winner, but also all of the other ones as well. It was a difficult decision. So
yeah, I'll if I may say also, yeah, phenomenal group, fantastic cohort, fantastic technologies. It was very, very, very tight. We could have deliberated for hours more, but very impressive. And I'd very much like to recommend that we all stay in touch. And also, one of the other hats that I wear is that I run a think tank that has a special task force on sustainability and AI. So of course, I'd love to be able to support you as you continue your journey through that avenue. So congratulations to the whole cohort.
And can I also note that obviously I noted in the backstage that my firm has an interest in talking to, I believe, minimally 2 of these companies for potential capitalization investment purposes. So we love to maybe I'll have the conversation with the ITU separately on that. And with that, I'll see hopefully some of my colleagues live in Geneva. I'll be there. So looking forward to it, guys.
Yeah, so excellent. Thank you, Pascal, for this excellent moderation, and thanks a lot for all our judges joining us today. So for the finalists today, we'll keep in touch with you and have another closed session to hear more about your business plan in detail and help you explore further business opportunities. And we also encourage you to check out the AI for Good program online to see more sessions that may be of interest to you. And of course, we invite you all to join us for the AI for Good Innovation Factory Grand Finale, featuring all the winners of all the all year always online pitching sessions we had since last September. So thanks a lot. Have a lovely day or afternoon or evening, and bye-bye. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for participating in today's AI for Good session. We hope you've learned something new, innovative, and engaging in today's event. We now encourage you to continue the conversation on the live video wall in the neural network. Here you can ask questions, like and comment, share links, complete the poll, connect with interesting profiles, or speak one-on-one using the chat and video function. We invite you to explore the lobby, try the smart matching quiz, visit the virtual exhibits, poster boards, the eShop, and build your personalized AI for Good program. Let's shape the future of AI for Good.
The AI for Good Global Summit, convened by ITU, recognizes the joint responsibility of governments, the private sector, United Nations agencies, academia, and others to ensure AI reaches its full potential while preventing and mitigating harms.
And it's a moment that calls for action. And today I'm calling on each of you to use this summit to help the world to better understand what kinds of regulations, what kinds of guardrails we need to put in place right now. So together, let's make it innovative, let's make it safe, and let's make it responsible for all. Thank you very much.